If we could go ahead and call our meeting to order, please. If I could ask everyone to please stand for a moment of silence.
Hearing first, sorry.
Hearing first. I'm sorry, we are not quite ready to call the meeting to order.
Okay.
Thank you. I apologize for the confusion. I will explain the confusion. What we're going to do first tonight is convene a public hearing. That is for the purpose of closing out our community development block grant project in the Boston area. So a public hearing to close out this grant is required. Our consultant will pass out some documents and make some brief comments, and then we'll open the floor for public comments and have our hearing.
You want me here?
Yep, right up there.
And I do have copies of these reports, if anybody wants a copy of it. Thank you. The mayor's called the meeting to order. And just one point of business, just want to know if you all have received any written comments in regards to the public notification? No? Okay, so for the record, there were no public comments. Yes, this public hearing is, we have to do a public hearing before we submit an application for a grant with the Community Development Block Grant Program. And then when you get to the end of your project and you're ready to close it out, there's another opportunity for the public to comment on the performance of the project. And that is the purpose of this public hearing, to review past use of funds and program performance. Okay. The project is the Boston Scattered Site Housing Project. It was submitted in 2018. I don't think they announced the grant until 2019. The financial report of it, what we ended up doing is we actually rehabilitated 2 houses and then totally reconstructed 3 more that were torn down and rebuilt from the ground up. So we assisted 5 low-income families in either rehabbing or rebuilding their houses. We've used to date $436,165 in CDBG funds. The only outstanding obligation is my final administrative fee, which isn't paid until they actually close the grant out. We also had I think it's $150,500 in affordable housing trust funds that were used for this project. We have to go over the beneficiaries. Again, it was a total of 5 households with a total of 9 persons living in the households. They were all low income. 2 were female-headed households, and there were 3 disabled. Let me just check what else here. The project does include that the city audits are all up to date. That has to be done before we close out. And it lists the addresses of the properties that were assisted. They were 306 Payne Street, 332 Payne Street, 317 Martin Luther King Drive, 417 Main Avenue, and 104 Shoal Drive. So that's basically a real quick summary of the report. There's a little bit more detail in the actual report. So at this time, are there any comments or questions about the project?
Any comments or questions from the audience concerning the Boston area community development block grant? Anyone from the council?
Mayor, I guess one quick question. I don't mean to put the cart before the horse, but what are the chances of applying and receiving some additional funding in the near future?
For the scattered site type housing projects, that they're pretty hard to do right now, mainly because of Kentucky Housing Corporation. The affordable housing trust funds that we use as match for that, they're basically no longer using it for homeowner rehab. They kind of cut that out. They're just mostly funding home buyer projects, like something that Habitat for Humanity might be doing, or those types of projects. So I think this one got in under the gun, and also we're having issues with it's just so very expensive to rehab these houses now, to tear down and rebuild.
Right. What's your cost to rebuild a house? Do you know, like per square foot, what it's costing now to do that? If not, no problem. I'm just curious.
The 2-bedroom house the last one that we did a few years back, the last project I did, I think it's like 952 square feet, something like that. We were doing those for like $85,000, $90,000. So we budgeted $100,000. I think we did the one here for 157,000. Yeah.
Same square footage?
Same square footage, same house. That's how bad COVID and how crazy the prices got when we were trying to do this. We were really thinking more like 100,000, and it was that high. So that's why now, if you're trying to apply for funds, if you had $1 million in funding, you could do what, 5, 6 houses. So I don't think they're really looking favorable at those types of projects right now. There is also, we had looked in the Boston area at doing a neighborhood type redevelopment project, which is a non-voluntary, where you'd like to take one street and kind of, bring everything up to code, and it's non-voluntary. I'm doing one of those in Winchester where they put a lot into public facilities as matching. So I think I can get one like that funded, but there was no interest in doing that type of project in the Boston area. And as you can see, since we started talking about it back in 2017, that area is kind of redeveloped on its own. A lot of the old houses have been torn down and rebuilt.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to thank you for these efforts, so needed and so important. So even if we don't get something like this soon in the future, I appreciate all the efforts that were made.
Yeah, I do think that the houses that, I don't know if you've seen them, that, they do really look good, the houses that we did do, and the people appreciated them. Thank you.
Good. If there are no other comments, then we will close the public hearing. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Now I will call the meeting to order. Thank you very much for your patience with that. Could we call the roll, please? Oh, well, we could say the pledge first, if we'd really like to. David, we ask you to say the pledge first.
We got a big flag.
Moment of silence.
Shall we pledge?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, David.
Mrs. Hammer?
present.
Mr. Hampton?
Here.
Mr. Lesby?
Here.
Mrs. Lesby Mitchell?
Here.
Mrs. Kimball Stein? Mr. Showalter?
Here.
Mr. Stein?
Here.
Mrs. Tackett? Here.
Thank you, and I've heard from Council Member Sames this morning. She indicated she would not be here this evening. So, just a couple of routine things that we have to get out of the way at the first of our meeting, and then we've got a number of special guests with us tonight for presentations. Each council member should have a copy of the minutes of our last meeting. If you'd like to look those over for any possible corrections or additions. And if there are none, entertain a motion that they be approved.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Thank you, Todd.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Greg. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Minutes are approved. And each council member should have also received a copy of our latest check register, if you could indicate we received that. Thank you. Now we get to have some real fun at the council meeting. City Council went through a very lengthy and detailed process to allocate a good portion of the ARPA funding, the American Recovery Plan Act funding that the city received, to a number of its not-for-profit agencies. And I was so appreciative of the process that the council went through to reach their ultimate decisions. Limited amount of funds, a whole lot of need, and a whole lot of wonderful effort being made to meet those needs. So the council had some very difficult decisions. They approached that decision by first, the council as a whole unanimously allocated the bulk funding in our budget to set aside for this philanthropic purpose. So the council shared unanimously in that decision. Then we asked 4 council members to spend the additional time to really do the deep dive and meet with all the agencies and do the heavy lifting of making a recommendation back to the full council. Willow, Greg, Todd, and Tammy, thank you all for doing that hard And those 4 council members worked with each of the not-for-profit agencies and came to a unanimous conclusion of the committee. And they brought those recommendations to the council, and those have now been approved. We thought it very appropriate to bring in some of these agencies. We have 6 agencies with us tonight that receive some of the larger allocations that the council sent out. There'll be a couple of others that are educationally oriented that will be celebrated in a different way at a different time. But we're delighted tonight to have these 6 organizations to present checks to. We actually have checks. So this will definitely be a photographic moment, and we would like to invite each of the recipients to take a moment during this part of our meeting to come forward, and we're going to make a space over here, Willow. You okay right now? We'll do so right. But we're going to make a space over here, and we'd like to invite the recipients and the council to be a part of the check presentation and get some photos. So the folks that we have with us tonight, Elizabeth's Village, Habitat for Humanity, the Humane Society, the Amen House, Friends of the Parks, and the Gathering Place. So, Andrew, we have the checks. Do we need to create our space?
Yep. Pause for a second here and we'll, you might want to take your. Is that what it is? Yeah, we're going to move you.
Take all this off. Okay.
You all want to go ahead and line up over here. We'll get some pictures.
Cheat sheet.
Well, then let's just find out what that is.
I'll stand behind my mark.
Okay. Sure can.
A very nice chair. The city of Georgetown to Elizabeth's Village.
Elizabeth's Village people.
Willow step forward.
There you go, that works.
Just keep smiling. Oh my gosh. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Do we keep the big chunk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to find a wall.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah. Oh, you need to stand tall there. Congratulations.
You get your check.
Take that straight to the bank.
Scott County Humane Society.
See, all right, I think I can see it. All right.
Our friends at the gathering place.
All right.
Georgetown Scott County Friends of the Parks Incorporated.
No.
Don't cover up our
Yes, I will give them to Arlene and she can send them out to everybody. All right.
Thank you. Hey, lady.
Well, he's good to follow up to you. You're a tough act to follow. He's not good.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
As long as you don't steal my candy. Okay.
Thank you all for helping us break a little bit of moving around. That was fun, and it was appropriate, I think, that you, as the council, make those presentations. Thank you all. Item 5 on our agenda was public comments.
Scott Markey has one.
Hey, thank you. Public comments. Thank you, sir.
I'm Scott Markey. I'm the coordinator for Toys for Tots. I'm here asking for road closure this coming November 26th out by Country Boy Brewery for our second annual 5K. It's a stop, drop, and run 5K with all proceeds going for Toys for Tots. Doesn't seem it's going to be affecting any businesses out there. It's going to be the race starts at 10 o'clock, so we should have everything opened by noon. Just asking if we can shut down the road for a few hours.
Sounds good.
It's going to be November 26th. It's the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Which road is it?
It's going to be Enterprise, Innovation, Endeavor, and Corporate. It's going to be a track around Country Boy.
Motion made. Thank you.
Second.
And second, they had a bunch of cars out there this week, and I know that. So
We had over 300 runners last year, hoping to have more this year. So,
yeah, it's a spot where the community can do things like that.
yes, sir.
Yeah, good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Four to that.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other public comments?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's Georgetown College. They're trick-or-treating. No one here from Georgetown College?
Anyone here from Georgetown College?
They want to
Georgetown College campus.
Jackson Street from 5:30 to
Yes,
7:30.
thank you. My phone's really small. Yes, thank you, Connie.
10:31:22 is proposed then.
Yeah,
Instead
so
of
it's trick or treat at Georgetown College, and they just wanted to close that
They're
one.
doing, and they've done this for several years.
Yeah,
They've
they have.
trick or treating on South Campus and all the dorms.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they did a lot of those over there, so it's.
It requires a strict closure.
Jackson Street, not the whole thing, but right there.
Is there a motion for approval? Thank you, Greg.
Second.
Thanks, Tom. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Anything else? Jesse? Good. Handful of mayor's comments. First, let me explain that due to just some communication errors and a real effort to make sure that all the appropriate parties were here tonight, including me. So I'm sorry, I was one of those variables. We will not do the recognition of Seth Johnson's promotion to Assistant Chief of Prevention tonight. We'll have that at our next meeting in October. So just wanted you all to know that. However, we do have a really important presentation with us tonight. We've been working with Bluegrass Community Action for several years now to introduce bus service to Georgetown. We've always needed some sort of local bus service, and we just had no concept really of how to provide it. But Bluegrass Community Action has worked with us, and we have endorsed their efforts. They've sought grants and have brought the G-Tran service to Georgetown that you're familiar with seeing. We've grown that. We've got a two-loop system that's grown and proven to be effective. They can explain that to you, but we think ridership numbers are probably ahead of the other communities where the service is offered. Our goal for some time has been to change our service just from the two-loop service to an actual scheduled service where there are stops and routes, and people can, I think, at that point it becomes a more viable transportation option that can really be used for folks. That's what we've been working, what Bluegrass Community Action has been working on with us to introduce. And that's what we're, I think, going to be talking about tonight is this expanded service. We've worked on bus stops and where they may be placed all over the city. Our personnel, Eddie and Robert Bruin, have ridden around town, and they've looked at the routes and they've looked at the stops and they've talked about them. You'll hear one tonight that most of you all already heard about, and I've heard from many of you all about, is you will hear a request for temporary usage of a portion of our lot there at South Broadway and Hamilton, or Clayton. Thank you, Clayton. Eventually, I know the council has real plans for that have not yet been fully developed. But for a period of time, as we start this service and get it established, I think there's a very reasonable proposal to use a portion of that area for actually a place for the bus to pull off and stop, and make the bus service as tangible and real as it can be. We'll get it established, and then a future council can work with the council on how they'll use that site in the future. I know they have alternative sites, but for now, that's what we'll hear about. So I want y'all to know we've considered that and know that there were concerns, but we're very comfortable recommending this short-term year or two solution to the council. So with that much introduction, I'd be glad to introduce our guest. Who will be the spokesperson on it, or both of you?
Lacey, I'm just a backup.
You're a backup, okay.
I'm the backup.
Okay, so
First off, did I state all that pretty much correct.
You nailed it. You got it. Yeah.
Yeah. You sure she didn't send you a script?
Yeah. I don't know what's left to say. My name's Lacey Johnson. I'm with BG Cap Transit. I'm the deviated fixed route driver supervisor. This is Tim Monroe. He's the senior compliance and driver manager. And like the mayor mentioned, we do have GTran currently, and we are really excited to amp it up. We got, well, I'll go through the slides. BG Cap, just as a quick review.
Endless potential.
Yeah, we're excited to be involved with the Broadway and Clayton stop. If we can, after our year, get involved with that. Maybe we can build, like we showed those stops, get more involved with building that up. But our mission is to provide safe, reliable, and affordable transportation for all members of the general public in central Kentucky. Let me see. This goes slow. There we go. This is our current ridership for GTran, and as you can see, the community, the businesses, everyone's excited. Our ridership has just continued to grow, and we're already almost up to 400, and that was as of the 18th, so I'm sure we're already over that. For the new routes, we've acquired 4 brand new buses. They're absolutely beautiful, and they have, I don't know if you can see it from this side. Yeah, on this upper side, they're going to have the marquee that'll say the stop they're coming to. It'll announce the stop. All the seats have USB ports for charging. They're just beautiful. Our projected launch date is the beginning of December. We're offering fare-free rides to everyone, and they will be offering rides Monday through Saturday. As you can see, the times will vary. And on Saturdays, we won't be making we'll go to the next slide, but we won't be making the stop all the way out to BCTC. And our current BG Capped office is located on Washington Street, and we'll be moving that into Indian Acres, kind of in that central area over there, and that will be one of our stops. And eventually, our goal and what we have planned for the future is intercity routes. So we'll be connecting Georgetown to Lexington and Frankfort and Danville and Nicholasville. So as you can see, there's lots of exciting projects in the work for this. This is the new, I know it's tiny and hard to see, but this is what our new routes are going to look like. We do have 2 loops still, but we're going to be having 4 buses, 2 rotating north and southbound and 2 rotating east and westbound. And we're going to go all the way up to the social services office in Toyota and BCTC, and then all the way down to Kroger. So like I put up there, we still will be covering Family Dollar, Library, Goodwill, all of those areas that we currently cover in the various neighborhoods as well. But we'll be adding that whole northeastern area, and our riders are excited. They've already been talking about it, and they're excited about that as well. And I mentioned that exception for Saturday. These are what our new bus stop signs are going to look like. We've been in talks with Eddie and Robert about where we're going to have them placed, and we've have 30 signs that are going to be made with the stop actually on them. They're going to have like a little number stop for the rider to be able to reference it with the QR code down there at the bottom. And then we're going to have an additional about 20 signs for needed repairs or replacements and such down the road. The signs will be ready for delivery on November 15th, so we can coordinate with Eddie and Robert for delivery of that. And then we were hoping to have them installed that week of November 28th, as our new routes we're projecting to start at the beginning of December. And again, we'll be available for more ride-alongs for exact placement as needed. These are the main issues we were hoping council could help us out on. As the mayor discussed, the bus stop on northbound Broadway and Clayton Avenue, there's like a little pull-out area we're hoping to use, and as the mayor had mentioned, for at least about a year, and of course anytime after that. I've been in talks with the state, and they are going to need approval. 3 of the stops will need approval through the state, but the permits will need to be in the city's name. And it's any of the highway stops. So that Broadway and Clayton stop will be one. There will be a southbound Broadway and College, which will be like a sister stop for the Clayton. And then on Main and Mulberry, over by the Amen House, that's like our Amen House stop. That will need to be approved by the state through a permit. And then bonds as well, but nothing additional will need to be done with that. Those follow the permits. And then finally, our parking spots. Our transit station is going to be at Washington and Court. It's on Washington right before Court along that median area. And we were hoping to reserve 8 spots during the day for the drivers to do shift swap outs, and then just park the 4 buses there overnight as a more secure location for our fleet. Are there any questions?
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. We are super excited. Yes, thank you.
We are very excited. It's something that it is very costly. And I know, as all of you are aware, being able to acquire new vehicles today,
Yeah.
and we've got 4 sitting on our lot with your name on it,
Literally,
Fantastic.
yes.
literally. It's amazing. We're still checking them in. We had 10 business days to look them over and go over all the little quirks and stuff that need to be addressed, through the vendor, but and then we have to get them licensed, and everything is coming together where we can be able to roll out beginning of December, so.
It's the next step in our evolution of providing public transportation.
Yeah.
The G-Tran was our first effort, our fledgling effort. And it gets gradually more sophisticated and better equipment and more routes. And our community provides the ridership, and we try and provide support through our engineering department and public works and recognize the public value of this. Because it's grant supported. We simply nod our head and say, yes, we think this is a good thing for our community.
We branded it Bluegrass Ride, and then we put your name on it. It's right now it's totally funded by Bluegrass Community Action Partnership. I mean, we have a lot invested in it, just with the consultants that went through your communities and got ideals of where the stop should be and who the people we're serving, and we're just really thrilled about getting this service out to you. It's really a notch up from where we're at today. It's a big step for us and for the community. We really are happy with it. Of course, we do provide medical buses that serve the county and the town here, and they're utilized greatly too. You'll see our buses all over the town.
I have a question. I just am blown away at the generosity of this, so thank you for working on it. But is there an age limit for ridership?
There isn't, and actually, I'm glad you asked that. Our new buses, we have currently ordered car seats for the old buses, so we can ensure that that's being taken care of currently. But the new buses actually have a built-in car seat that will. We're going to train our drivers to set it up, but the parent or guardian will be responsible for securing the child. But
And so
yes,
can a 12-year-old get on?
yeah.
Unaccompanied, or is there an age limit for unaccompanied?
Public transportation, anybody can ride. On our medical buses, we would require a escort with somebody that age. So, I mean, if a 4-year-old tries to get on the bus, we can't let them on without a parent or guardian.
Right.
If they're an adolescent, we have to have, they have to be accompanied by someone of age.
And so we don't have an age where an unaccompanied minor can get on? It could be a 10-year-old?
No. If they're a minor, they have to have
So under 18 has to be accompanied?
under 13, I think.
Under 13, okay.
They have to be accompanied by
So some young people could take it
Yeah.
home from school?
Yeah, they could ride it to school.
Possibly.
We hope to serve the college with our inner city route, because she had mentioned that.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to get all the deviated fixed routes up and rolling first, but then along with everything else, we're talking about an inner city route that will link Lexington to Danville to Frankfort, and we feel like the younger people Georgetown College or UK
Yeah.
or BCTC could utilize that service to be able to get to other resources that they might need for their education.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things we're really excited about. It's going to be down the road because we plan on being done getting all of our fixed routes out. We have 3 of them. Your guys will be the first one that we implement because you're so easy. You really have been supportive the whole time that we've been with you. You know, Tom's been great. You know, Eddie over here, he's rode countless hours around town with us, and I know he's been ready to get off that bus, looking at stops and things. And so by April, we should be done with all the fixed routes up to next year. And then after that, we're going to concentrate on getting the inner city route started, starting with Georgetown.
David?
Well, first of all, thank you for what you've done and where what it's evolved into. Sometimes you gotta be careful when you ask a question. My dad taught me you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. You probably heard that before. But I guess my question, a couple questions, and Will kind of touched on this, but and I see a lot of the stops that you're proposing on there. There are a lot of circles. I guess that's what the future looks like. And I would ask, if there isn't, could there be a consideration from like the Ed Davis Learning Center out to our pavilion, which is a recreational facility that we have here in Georgetown, and a way to transport kids, but I know that the age might be an issue, and you know, how could we maybe solve that problem? Maybe there would be a time of day and there'd be some designated adult that could be on the ride with those children coming and going. Just a thought. I'm not sure where to take it, but
Well, we've been serving the pavilion of in Ed Davis Park for this whole time, and really haven't had a lot of ridership. That wasn't, you know, like I say, we've had meetings with the community and everything, and we have, you know, not put the pavilion in this route because of the length of going all the way out to BCTC, and the social services office is so time consuming. So to keep the buses running, where if you got on one and got off, the most you could ride is 45 minutes. And hopefully keep that ride less than that, you know, by getting a bus that's going the opposite direction. When you get off here, you can get on another bus that's going the opposite direction by rotating 2 buses in one loop. The way the town is laid out and everything, it's how that came out with the planners. So that being said, we also have a half-mile deviation. We deviate off route up to a half mile to serve people that have disabilities. You know, all of our vehicles are lift equipped and have securement locations for wheelchairs. And we have that ability to go out a half mile off the loop to serve, to drop people off at a certain place or to pick them up. Well, we do, you know, ask for a 24-hour notice so that we can prepare for that. But I hope that answers your question a little bit. You know, we can always visit other stops down the road. You know, even our brochure, we're only ordering 5,000 of the flyers because we anticipate maybe a need to add something or move something. So we don't want to get a lot invested, and we want to be flexible and be able to be fluid enough to serve you. That's our whole purpose, is to serve the town.
We moved a lot of them early on where they weren't getting much response. So there was some adjustment early on to get the optimum ridership for the number of stops you have. And, you know, David, I think it's something that Bluegrass Community Action and you all will continue to monitor. And as the ridership warrants, And if there's a special program you develop, it could create the ridership. And then you could work on.
Then we can address it, yes.
Okay.
That's why we're here, is actually to serve this community. This is a great community. It does wonders for our state, does wonders for Bluegrass Community Action. I mean, we I don't know how many trips we do up here a day. You know, I'd say close to anywhere from 75 to 100 trips a day just in medical buses, taking people to dialysis, to the doctor, to the tanning bed, believe it or not. You know, we take people anywhere they want to go. I mean, sometimes it might cost them,
Yeah.
but you know, we try to serve the community the best we can, and you have been you deserve every bit of it.
Is there any chance you can go back to the second or the third slide?
I
on the
sure can.
ridership, just to see those numbers again?
Maybe.
See, right now, we've had 370 riders for this month,
As of the 18th, yeah.
the 18th.
Yeah,
That was from
so-
the 18th.
Is that unique riders or
That's-
just don't count? Double?
That's a daily ridership added from both of our red route and blue route
Yeah.
buses.
The blue route, the city, then the town route gets more riders than the route that goes to Walmart. Believe it or not. I mean, you'd think Walmart would get out everybody, but it's not. It's mostly the dollar store, the library.
Yeah, right there on Main, or Broadway.
Yeah, it's mostly right around in there where most of the ridership comes from. Amen House and the Gathering Place, they have some riders, you know, that people that need to get out and try to find a job and do things. You know, we're all about helping people. One of the things that we like to say, we like giving a hand up. You know, we try to help people get on their feet and get where they can do on their own.
And when I started talking about this some time ago, we love the rebranding. That bus that says Georgetown on the side, it's just pride of, local pride. Instead of G-Tran, it says Georgetown.
And I guess you saw it was in an orange stripe.
Yes.
And then the white picket fence and the green hill is so much like what if you drive out of town here anywhere, you'll see something like that.
Did you have a question specific to?
When these new routes are added, what are you forecasting these numbers that we see there going to?
Well, as you see, they've already been building, and my drivers are always like, "What are you going here?" What they're asking when they're starting. So we've already had the community itself is talking to the riders, and they're talking to their friends. You know, so it's exponentially it's just going to grow, I think, and especially when they see the new buses. I mean, they're going to roll out, and everybody will want to get on.
Well, the route that goes out past Walmart, we know that it's going to grow. That goes out to BCTC and social services. There's a lot of people that need that ride. And we know that part of it's probably going to blow up. Now, I predict probably around 50% fairly quick in ridership.
Concerning the Broadway and Clayton, like, right now, I know you know what it looks like, and we have plans to make it a beautiful park, and to do some mitigation with water. I know we probably talked to Robert and Eddie about that. But, like, right now, if you got started, what would you be doing to that space in order to pull a bus
Actually,
in there?
we go to the first slide.
Oh,
We would leave most of that up to you.
Good, that'd be good.
You see the one on the left at the top left-hand corner?
Yes, and that's
How
pretty-
colonial that looks. It looks a lot like Georgetown. That's just a bus stop. That's a shelter where people can sit and wait on the bus, be out of the weather. You see one with a solar panel for a roof. This other one is by a school, so they got like pencils,
book.
and its aesthetics are not that difficult, and with talent like you have on your public works
Yes.
people. They could do a lot. Our main concerns are being compliant with ADA. And being rural as we are, we have a leniency. But you know, like a bus stop is supposed to have a 2% grade and 8 foot deep and so wide that you can load off a wheelchair safely. And that's why we like to, she's calling it the transit spot, the transfer spot at the parking lot over by the jail. That's perfect. That's a perfect spot for buses to meet. And I'm on the one route, I want to get on the other route, I'm in a wheelchair, I can get off safely and move to another bus and continue to ride to my destination. So those are the things that we're really concerned about. As far as aesthetics, we want to show you that there's endless potential. It's whatever you want. It can be whatever you want. So that's kind of why we put that up there, to give you that, because we want you to take ownership of this. That's why your name's on that bus.
I don't think we have a problem.
Yeah.
We all have opinions over here.
Yeah, I mean,
I really appreciate the fact that you're going to have timed routes as well, because people want to know if they can depend on it to get to work on time, things like that. That's invaluable. You can't just, hope that the loop is going to show up at a certain time.
well, we've been running some really tired buses, and I mean, 200,000+ miles on them, and they're really tired. They're 2014s.
Wow.
And so we feel like we're good for another 10 years when we get this up and running.
That's nice.
Like Lacey said, there's USB ports for charging your phone, and the seats are comfortable. There's more room.
I think we understand the benefits of what this upgrade will bring us. Are there any concerns that council has over the handful of requests that are made?
I was going to say I can go back to that.
They all seem reasonable to you?
The only thing that I would ask would be, is it potentially looking more down the road at expanding into the subdivisions, like the main roads and the subdivisions? I know your next
Well,
step
see, you
is
got a
to
half a
get
mile
city, but-
deviation, so if you call in 24 hours in advance, just about, along the route, just about anybody that would need us to go and pick them up at their home can do that. So, I mean, not for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, because to be able to stay on a timed route where people know you're going to be at this bus stop at a certain time, we have to, there's not a lot of room.
Right, right.
And what we would do on our third round or something, we had 4 people call in for destinations, deviations, per se. Our bus would only be able to do 1. But we have all these medical buses that are running around that we would deploy to that person and take them to the nearest bus stop.
That's good.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
On a deviation, because we have to accommodate you.
Right.
So, I mean, there's no limit to what we'll do. It's just having the resources to get it done. Does that make any sense?
Sounds good.
Perfect sense. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Any questions for you about the permits being done in the city's name?
Yeah, are we gonna submit the permits on your behalf to put up signs on state routes, on the 3 state routes? Or are you all?
The state said they need to be in the city's name due to the state insurance coverage
Okay.
for them. So that's why we're proposing it to y'all to,
Because we went back and forth whether you all were doing it.
yeah. And I'm happy to fill it out, just has to be under all.
I'll probably need some help,
Yeah.
making sure that I know exactly where
Yes, for
all the
sure.
stops are. but
Exactly. Yeah, and I can ride along with you. That I'm
Okay.
happy to do that.
Okay.
Kevin, this refers to an agreement about a one-year agreement on the bus stop location. Is this all specific enough for us to make a motion in general?
Yeah, Andrew and I talked about that earlier, that just, I think a simple voice vote, maybe within the motion, just indicate a date of expiration unless the next council extends it. So I guess that would be October 24th, 2023, absent an extension, but yeah, I think a voice vote's fine.
Okay, is there a motion to this effect?
So moved.
Mayor, I have just one last question.
Yes, sir.
The new buses, are they equipped with seat belts?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right. What's the capacity?
It's 15,
15.
including the driver.
Okay,
And that can go up or down. The 15 is 2 wheelchair locations. So it's really 12, 2 wheelchairs and the driver.
okay.
And then we can, I think, raise one seat up and get 3 wheelchairs at a time if we need to. And then it drops it to 10 and 3 and a driver. We do that because it keeps us out of the commercial driver's license business.
Right.
We keep it under 15 passenger vehicle.
Thank you.
Got a motion and a second. Thank you. Any questions? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all for listening to us, and
Yes, thank you.
yeah, I
Okay,
think I do.
good stuff. A couple of other comments, if I could make. First off, let me say thank you to each of you. I had lots of expressions of concern and best wishes. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm glad to be back. So, thank you.
MON-ROE, there they are.
Also, just a couple of things that are coming up. Fire Prevention Parade is this Thursday night.
Yes, sir.
So, if you'd like to be in the
Probably
parade,
don't need
be
that.
at the corner of Military and Main Street, West Main, between 6:15 and 6:30, and they'll throw you up on a fire truck. So, Fire Prevention Parade, Thursday evening. Also, this coming Saturday, we've talked about it a lot, but finally, this coming Saturday is Super Recycling Day. So all the stuff in your garage that you need to get rid of, this is your safe opportunity to do so. Gate 1 from 9 to 2. A reminder that before we get back together again, we'll have Halloween trick or treat, October 31st from 6 to 8. And on the same date, downtown, West Spooktacular from 11 to 2. So lots of stuff going on in that regard. Also wanted to just, in the form of a reminder for the council, to remind you that we have been working on a rate study for the necessary sewer repairs that have been going on. And we've been going through this process, and we have anticipated that this rate study would come back to us. And it is close to being complete. So it's gonna come back to you. And I just wanted to plow the ground a little bit and have you anticipate that before Chase brings that back to you in a meeting in the not distant future. Might be our next meeting. I'm not sure. Been a lot of work done. There's a lot of work continuing to be done. As we've known, we have a responsibility as a city that owns GMWSS to provide for a rate structure that covers all of the projects that we have started and that we have taken on responsibility for. That includes these cost overruns that we've experienced with wastewater plant 1, the long continuing saga that we've lived through. We expect that there will be some financial recovery in the future, but we must do our work as if there is no financial recovery. We must cover this project, cover this indebtedness in an appropriate and business-like way. This is just a repeat for you. We've already talked about all this stuff. But it's a way of saying that when this rate increase comes to us, it's going to be substantial. We knew it was going to be substantial, and it is math. It is not policy, it is math in large measure. You'll have the methodology explained to you, but it's largely just simple math. I also want the council to be thinking about, we've had a very aggressive set of capital improvements going on with GMWSS for the last several years. We had a 5-year capital plan that was very aggressive. Council approved the rate structure necessary for that to happen. And we've been very specific about what that capital plan included. So we have so many demands on this right now. The demands are large. So part of the challenge that Chase has had is looking at this rate study to include all of the costs that were required to include for wastewater plant 1 expansion. Yes, expansion and repairs. There were also some other considerations that we are compelled to consider in this rate structure, in this rate study. There are some improvements that we have committed to make. There are some improvements that are absolutely essential. And Chase is being very thorough in evaluating those with his board to see which ones are in this rate study and which ones are not included in the rate study. My purpose for going into all this detail is to let you know that once we put this in place, Chase is going to have a long list of projects to do, but he's going to be completely maxed out. Funding, management, this capacity. So council and administration will have to be aware that those will be the parameters that GMWSS and Chase have to work within. They'll be known, but as you face political pressures to do other projects, or would it be nice if, and, well, that's not fair, we don't have, and when can I have more pressure here? And all of those questions are valid. Chase is going to be maxed out. My opinion. So as we approach that rate study, I just want us to have it all in the right context. It is going to be a substantial lift for you, but it's math. And one day, I hope we get the relief of some recovery. Chase, anything else that you'd like to add in preparation for this coming?
Thank you for teeing that up very, very accurately. It is math, and it is going to be significant. We did this in 2019, and a lot has changed since 2019 that was impossible to anticipate and factor into what we did in 2019 with that 5-year rate structure. To add on to what the mayor said, there's 4 main parts that we're evaluating that we have to include. One is the wastewater treatment plant overages due to the structural redesign. With that also changes the financing of the project. We have to borrow more. There's more interest. There's more on the bond, essentially. The layman's term is there's more closing cost. None of those were factored in to our rate structure in 2019. Those are new. As the mayor said, we hope to recover costs there, but there are limits to what we can recover, and we're becoming very familiar with what that expectation might be. He also touched on the capital program. we put together a very aggressive capital program that is largely based on infrastructure renewal, which of this magnitude, this is the first time in Georgetown Municipal's history that we had to look at renewal of existing infrastructure on this scale. Since then, the last 2 years especially, every project that we've completed and then the remaining projects, they've all cost more than what we anticipated just due to the inflation. You've heard it all. We're all tired of hearing it. Supply chain, just limited on everything, concrete and steel. Everything's gone up. Our costs of these projects have gone up. And again, we made what we thought were very conservative thoughts on how these prices would escalate over the 5-year rate structure and the 5-year capital plan. Inflation escalation has rapidly outpaced what we thought it would be, what we anticipated. So that's the treatment plant, the capital program. We also just have operational expenses that have, again, rapidly outpaced what we anticipated. Materials, chemicals that we use every day, the materials, pipe, meters, we can't even get them, much less pay for them. Fuel, there's any number of things. I'm going to show you that when I present. As the mayor said, it's math. We can show you this. This is not anything that's not justified. It's just what has happened, and it's how it's affected this utility. The final thing that we have to factor in is regulatory updates. 2 major things have happened in the regulatory world since 2019. Again, we didn't anticipate. Has to do with the lead and copper rule update and how we deal with PFAS in our drinking water. That's very technical stuff, but these are federal level rule updates that we will have to be in compliance with in the next few years. That has huge financial impact to every utility across the country, not just Georgetown Municipal. What these are is they are the regulatory response to what happened in Flint, Michigan. That can't ever happen in our industry again. These are the 2 rules that will hopefully prevent that happening, but they come at a very big price tag. Nobody talked about lead and copper or this other, the PFAS rule in 2019. We didn't account for it, but it's happening now, and we actually have deadlines that we will have to be in compliance by 2024, and those impacts are not budgeted. So those are the 4 things we're looking at. I hate this, and it's not fun to look at this, but it is our reality, and it's going to be significant.
As we contemplate this, I also want the council to consider, and the public to consider, the model by which we have grown our sewer company has to change. We're at a stage in our growth where that model, historically, our sewer system has expanded as development has occurred and the developers put in that infrastructure. We've used the concept for years now of privilege fees, where if a developer had to put in larger infrastructure to do his development because others would use that same infrastructure, the developer had an opportunity to recover a portion of their infrastructure development from those future developers. Privilege fees worked well. We're now reaching a point where we're going to need several significant backbones or spines of sewer infrastructure to be extended in certain new places we have. We have new parts of the city because of the bypass. Those type of infrastructure extensions are very expensive. Developers are going to be hard pressed to do that. That model isn't going to work anymore. Privilege fees may not work to save developers from that. So who puts in this backbones? Is it the city? And perhaps it is. But because of our circumstances and the wastewater plant debacle, our rate structure is being really under assault. So it's a real dilemma that the city's going to face about how we provide those future large infrastructure advances that then allow appropriate areas to develop. We won't have a large developer or privilege fee agreement give us that luxury in the future. Is that kind of our discussion, Chase?
Yes, sir. I think we will continue to utilize privilege fees. I think they've been a great model and a great tool for the utility, our customers, as well as the development community. I think if you're new to the concept as a developer, you don't like it, but I think that the developers in our system that have benefited from it over time and they've come to understand it, it's been a great tool. That the utility has again used for years. I want to say maybe the second utility in the state to utilize privilege fees, and but a privilege fee of the magnitude to provide backbone infrastructure, whether it be water or sewer, to say the Northwest Bypass, a major expansion area. That's going to, as the mayor said, that's going to challenge our system. And we got to think of how we want to change, how we fund projects, whether it's new infrastructure, whether it's privilege fees, whether we need to consider system development charges. I think we're going to have to put everything on the table to know how to navigate this utility into the future and provide the service that that the city's going to demand.
Part of what I wanted to do is give the council a caution about just how tough Chase's path is going to be. And there will be those who advance some really attractive ideas about where we ought to put sewer and where we ought to make things available. And I just want all your considerations to be grounded in reality. And there's some glittery new places where people want sewer, but we've got new parts of Georgetown inside of our house. I just want us to be very careful about these big long-range decisions, because there are glittery interchanges and other places that are going to have people's attention, but they're not where we need to be putting sewer infrastructure right now. I'll stop there. Lost my place on my whole agenda because of all that, Chase.
I do have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
With the possibility of a huge rate structure change that seems a necessity, how many people default on paying their water bills, and what do we do as a city if there are people that simply can't afford the rate structure of that magnitude? Is there a safety net? Is there?
Currently, no. I mean, we have a strict policy on notifications and time frame that we will allow people to be delinquent, but eventually they are cut off, whatever type customer that is. And
So that could grow. That number of people who get cut off with this rate structure change could be a significant increase.
It could. I absolutely. We have to account for that. It's going to be difficult on a large percentage of the customer base. There's no getting around that.
We're still fairly confident, Willow, that when we look at the Bluegrass Area Development District rate study in general, we're going to shift slightly on that, but we're not going to peg it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what we want, but I don't think it's going to be outrageous. Interesting, we talked about one of the grants we received was for utility assistance, and those funds were they used?
Is that for KU? The CDBG emergency allocation? A portion of those were utilized, but they experienced this in all the jurisdictions, that some of the requirements kind of made it unduly burdensome for people to take advantage of them based on if they'd already received assistance from XYZ source, they didn't qualify. So that was an interesting situation. A lot of jurisdictions couldn't spend it.
It was interesting. The money didn't get spent. Maybe it was the programs designed to follow that. But It was, it just wasn't a good program.
It's not that it
Cumbersome.
wasn't a good program, it was very.
It was cumbersome.
It was very cumbersome, and a lot of people were disqualified just based on receiving other assistance previously. So, I mean, the folks that helped us administer that told us front and center that we would have a hard time spending it, and we did, so.
Oh,
Chase, the
Too
Will's
bad.
question, do you all write off debt annually or every time, or is that not?
We
really a procedure?
generally do not.
Okay.
I think we have on occasion when it becomes very outstanding, but generally no.
Didn't know if it kind of carried over, there'd be a lien mechanism in place or something there.
Generally, the cutoff takes care of the issue.
Okay.
And I don't want to sound heartless there. I really don't. But we have, I'm sure as any agency, whether it's public or private, paying your phone bill, your cable bill, you have a percentage of your customers that don't pay regardless. And then you have customers that are truly hit by hardship, whether it's fixed income or loss of job or some, medical expense. And we do what we can with payment plans, which by policy, we have a way to walk customers through that. But generally, no, we don't write off a lot of debt. And again, back to your question, there is going to be hardship through this.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When people do call, when they're having trouble paying their water bill, do you tell them about New Vista or Bluegrass Community Action or that?
Generally, we just advise on if it's needed and if it meets the requirements on payment plans that we are happy to allow and make or structure in a way that it helps the customer.
Well, I know that Bluegrass Community Action and New Vista, they help people with their utilities and sometimes with their rent. I don't think the criteria is quite as hard as what you try to go through on the funding, but I think it might be maybe I could get some phone numbers for you.
Sure. And that might be something that our customer service is outstanding, and 99% of things they're able to resolve directly with our customers. I'd need to check with them on what all advice they offer. But I've written those two down and I'll follow up.
Because I know that they do help quite a bit.
So, probably more information than you needed about something that will come at a future meeting. Chase, you've got some other things to bring to the council?
I do. Would you like me to run through these, or do you want to do them one by one?
Why don't you just, they look like they're all pretty straightforward.
They are. The first two are contracts, task orders that the council's already approved. They're just the purchase orders that come after. The first is for leak eliminators, $15,979.50, and that's for cleaning of the concrete basins at the treatment plant at Royal Spring. As I said this previously, the task order already approved, and the work is complete at this point, so we need to just pay the contractor. And I believe, Eddie, the city's portion that you all have done with us on the actual channel, I believe that's complete as well. So
Later in the meeting, we've got an emergency.
Yeah, thank you
Purchase order.
Thank you for your help with that, by the way.
Next, we've got a purchase order for Judy Construction 468092. That was for the change order that was approved at the previous council meeting related to the price escalations of some of the equipment, and that that's one that we're adding to that tally that we're hoping to recover, that we're pursuing recovery of the cost. That's really all the detail I think that I can give there, but that's the purchase order that goes with that change order that was previously approved. Next, we have a purchase order for Judy Construction. We have a lot of Judy Construction in this agenda. This is for $1,951,253.71, and this was for work completed on the treatment plant in September. On a side note, I'll discuss that our intermediate financing program that consisted of 2 bond anticipation notes. Those were based on a monthly spend rate of $1.2 million. That's what we had worked with Judy Construction on the schedule. However, their production has rapidly outpaced that rate of spend, and So we will actually spend down all of bond anticipation note number 2 before we're ready to go to our permanent financing. So we have checked with our financial advisor. They have advised that we look at a third bond anticipation note that I will be working on and bringing forth to you. This is, again, a bridge to our permanent financing. This is a problem, but this is a good problem to have. The fact that their productivity is outpacing this much what we anticipated, this is a good problem to have. This is one that we're happy to deal with, but you will see likely a third bond anticipation note coming in the bond ordinance with it in the next few months. So. Next two were bid recommendations. First is for Judy Construction for the Rogers Gap Pump Station replacement. This is in the amount of $888,200. This is the second time we've bid this project. First time publicly advertised, we received 0 bids from contractors. This time, we, in addition to the public advertisement, we sent out 20 bid invitations to industry contractors. Only 5 of them purchased plans to review for a bid, and we still received only 1 bidder. That's, I think, shows how busy the contractors are, because this is a pretty easy contract and has a good room for profit margin. We budgeted $800,000 for this project, so we're over $88,200. We're pulling money from one of our other capital projects that budgeted this year because this one is more important. This pump station serves all of northern Scott County, and the pumps, the controls, the piping is well past its service life, and some of the piping is just flaking away. This has to be done now. It can't wait. Is worth noting, this is not an expansion of capacity of this facility. This is just replacement of what's there. That's all we can afford at this time. So we are recommending that project. Finally, we have our sludge hauling services for our treatment plants. This is the sludge that's the byproduct of the treatment process that goes to the landfill. Last year we bid this for a 1-year contract with 4 annual renewals, so essentially a 5-year contract. After year 1, the low bidder, our contractor that was selected, Rumpke, they called and asked for a 40% increase on the renewal. Their bid last year was $38 a ton. They wanted to increase that to just right around $52 a ton. So we re-advertised, we rebid that just to make sure. We didn't want to just sole source a 40% increase. Low bidder was Rumpke at $51.57 per ton. So on an annual scale, we spent the last 12 months $211,000 on sludge hauling. So that will increase now to just under $300,000 for the next 12 months. That's the kind of escalation that we're experiencing with every single vendor across the board on everything we do. That's why we have to look at rates again.
Is there a motion for approval of the items that Jason listed?
Motion.
Thank you, Barry. Second. Next item.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
That's okay. Go back to what you said about part of the increase. You had 4 parts of why the increase would possibly be or will be necessary. And the one part that you were talking about, the new national standards for the lead and the copper. So just to clarify, we're currently meeting all of the copper and lead national standards and regulations now. When you said, because we don't want to be a future Flint, Michigan, I'm going, no, we don't. But
no, we don't.
What we're doing now is not heading in that direction.
I've taken up a lot of your time. I can do a quick overview of this if that's what you'd like.
Yeah, I'd just like some clarification of that, because the new regulations will be better
right
serving
now.
us.
Yes, they will. But it comes at a cost. Right now, obviously, anything that we test for lead concentration, we have to maintain a water quality that's safe drinking. The revised lead and copper rule goes a step beyond that. It starts, which is the part that's due December 2024. We have to inventory our entire system for lead, everything, calling it lead. Subsequent, after that, after we've identified lead, the next 20 years, as it's proposed right now, we have to remove it all. We're in pretty good shape for that, honestly. The majority of our system, post 1985, 1990, lead was kind of already out, so we're in good shape. The kicker on this is we own our mains. We own the service lateral that goes to the meter in your front yard, next to the sidewalk. Through this rule, what we're also responsible for is your service lateral that you own and that I don't have easement or access for. Step further, we're also, by this rule, responsible for lead on the internal plumbing of your home.
Wow. Whoa. Wow.
That is the rule. That's the revised rule. So I have to inventory, and by December of '24, sign off to US EPA through Division of Water that we've identified every lead fitting in our system. That means somehow I have to go to your house, your business, and say, I need access to inspect your plumbing. I need access to inspect your service lateral. I don't have a clue how we're going to do that yet, but we have to do it. That's workforce, that's time, that's equipment. We have to identify it, locate it, then we've got approximately 20 years to remove it all.
But wouldn't the majority of those places be in the other neighborhood?
They will. And we can identify through our records, through record drawings, where that is, but the part of it that we don't own is what we don't know how to address.
Yeah. Wow.
So every community in the United States is going to be obligated to this. I mean, do you think there'll be some kind of forbearance or relief? I mean, it seems like it's almost so daunting that how could everybody?
Yeah, how can cities all do this? Yeah.
The funny thing is Division of Water being the state representative, the state arm of enforcement, they're asking the same questions that the utilities are, at least in this state. I don't know the answer to these questions. All I know is what's expected and what we're going to be judged upon.
Well, thank you.
I think these things, they're large issues and they play out nationally.
Yeah.
And we'll be held to a certain standard. It'll be just like the Clean Water Act, everything else that we've done. We'll work it out. But we can't predict it now, other than know it's going to have an expense.
I think that the best way I can put that is as an industry, we've never put a true value on our product, our drinking water or our wastewater treatment. And I think in the coming years, you're going to see that what's historically been a low part of whether it's a business or a single family residential, a pretty low part of your monthly budget for drinking water and sewer service has never been that significant, and that's going to change in the coming months and years.
Any other questions for Chase? We've got a motion and a second. No other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Chase. Any
Thank you
other
all.
questions for Chase?
Thank you all for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Item A on our agenda, the city attorney, a municipal order approving a lease agreement with the Scott County Fiscal Court. Kevin, please.
Yeah, so we're inching up on our city hall move out for the renovation project, and Andrew specifically has been hustling around with Robert and others to find out where all the city hall personnel will be housed. And one of those locations is going to be the old jailer's house over on Water Street. So they're working on logistics of that as far as internet access and things like that, but that would house the mayor, the mayor's assistant, Andrew, me, and I think the only other person will be our affordable housing and homelessness prevention person. So we've got plans for Eddie with Public Works and for I think HR and Finance to be here. I might be wrong, Finance might be there, but we're all kind of sprinkled about. So this lease agreement just kind of memorializes that, and the only real obligation we have is to cover the cost of utilities, which we were covering at City Hall anyways. So.
And by putting it under this agreement, I think fiscal court has the whole complex either for sale or they intend to have it all for sale. But this would let a potential buyer know that we're gonna occupy Joe's house for as long, up to 2 years. We don't think it'll be a full 2 years.
So fiscal court intends to sell the old jail? Is that the intention?
The jail and the Joe's house. But this won't be available to the buyer until we're through it.
Yeah. I was, just as a point of information, I went through what's now called the Arts and Cultural Center, which is the old jail, a few days ago, and there's a lot of property in there that, quite frankly, they don't quite know where to put it. Some of it they're trying to stick in the museum because it's of museum quality things. They've got Archambault prints. They've got a lot of things that show the entire history of the jail, mounted, framed, beautifully presented. If they stick it all in the basement, it'll all rot. While I was there were mice running around, visual, so just be aware of that. Remediation, but I don't know what the time frame is, but if we could get together and find a way to put the right things in the right place rather than just stick it all in the basement, I'd be glad to help coordinate people to work who are on the Arts and Cultural Center now, because I know we need that space.
Come see me, we're working on it right now.
Are you? Okay, perfect.
A lot of that stuff is there's like a lot of art supplies and things like that. We're
Yes,
trying
the
to
whole
get it
floor.
into the hands of some nonprofits and colleges and the library and things like that. So, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff to
There's a
sort
lot
through.
of stuff.
And we gotta do it kinda quickly. We won't stick it where it is.
I know Amelia Cloud is very involved, so.
I have a question. Where's Thursday going?
I'm at the Rock House.
You're at the Rock
Come
House?
visit.
Uh-huh.
It's so cute.
I will. That's awesome.
It is.
We're all jealous.
We
The
love
rest of
it.
us
We're
wanna
not
be there.
coming back.
They fixed that up, that place up, was really nice.
Is there a motion for approval of the use board? Motion been made, thank you. Okay. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you. Item B, second reading of an ordinance regarding ATVs and parking in city parks.
An ordinance adding a new section to Georgetown Code of Ordinances, Chapter 30, Article 2, relating to the prohibition of many motorbikes and ATVs and the regulation of parking on city park property. Summary 1, adds a new section to Georgetown Code of Ordinances, Chapter 30, Article 2, prohibiting the operation and parking of motor vehicles and golf carts within city parks and prohibiting the operation of ATVs, mini bikes, mopeds, and other motorized apparatus within the city parks subject to specific exceptions, and provides a penalty for violations of said prohibitions. 2, provides for repeal of inconsistent laws, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination at the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and public read the first time October 10th, 2022. Publicly read the second time October 24th, 2022.
Thank you. Sponsors Mr. Stone and Ms. Mitchell.
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Thanks.
I'll second that.
Thank you each. If there are no questions, we will call the roll.
Mrs. Hambrick?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mr. Lesman?
Yes.
Mrs. Leslie Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Thank you. That passes. Under City Engineer, item A, municipal order approving the Royal Springs Emergency Dredging Project. I don't know if y'all have gone by and looked, but they dredged out a bunch. We could have dredged more. The bottom, we never did hit a solid bottom. But I think Jason, his folks only wanted the channel to a certain depth. And it just makes things work better, so.
Yeah.
I think that's why we kind of stopped there.
We did. We worked closely with Chase's group, and want to thank them for alerting us to the situation with the spring being so low due to the dry weather conditions, allowed us to push this project forward. So,
Was there anything, Eddie, that we need to tell the council about that that exposed itself after we cleaned it out? Could see some of
I
it?
think that it would be really a good idea if we got on a regular schedule, maybe once every 2 or 3 years, and where it doesn't get, it got kind of out of hand, the amount of silt and buildup.
Yeah, it
And-
didn't look the way we
No.
wanted it to.
And rather than, delaying and waiting a long time, get in there on a regular basis and maybe try to clean it out. And also keep a good eye on it and monitor it, so.
All the muck cleaned from around the baptismal steps.
Yeah, yes, we got all that out, and we actually took some survey shots. We had been planning on doing this project before the situation with the spring emerged, and we've taken some survey shots to quantify the depth of what we cleaned out, so we know we have a starting point. We can monitor it that way.
Okay. Any questions?
Looks a lot better down there.
Yeah, we spent the money and now we're asking for permission.
Well, yeah, that's not how we would normally do it, but,
It was an emergency though, right?
yes.
Emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, thank you. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, that carries. Item B is a municipal order approving the bid for the Walmart write-in, write-out waiting banners.
Right.
As you'll recall, it's our expectation that once we do this step, that we have no further responsibility with those lane delineators.
Yeah, I confirmed that again today with our contacts at KYTC. So.
If we don't do this, we're gonna have responsibility for the lane delineators
Right.
forever.
Yes, we'll have to continue to maintain them, and
So we have this initial investment.
yeah.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
You got anything else for us?
No, sir. No, sir. Thanks.
Item 10 on our agenda is second reading of an amendment to the FY 22-23 budget. Stacy, we make you stay here all this time just for the
It's all
budget?
right. We'll see if anybody has any questions after second reading.
Okay.
An ordinance amending the annual budget ordinance for fiscal year July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023. Summary, general fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $447,833. General government expenses are increased by $165,000. Police expenses are increased by $174,556. Fire expenses are increased by $43,266. Transfers to other funds are increased by $65,011. MAP fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $169,790. Capital expenses are increased by $169,790. LGEA fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $13,689. Public works expenses are increased by $13,689. Drug fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $7,789. Police expenses are increased by $7,789. Grant fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $19,729. Local grant revenue is increased by $20,000. Federal grant revenue is increased by $1,919,128. Police expenses are increased by $165,560. Community service expenses are increased by $1,902,430. Capital expenses are decreased by $109,133. ARPA fund. Prior year revenues are decreased by $6,754,425. Federal grant revenue is increased by $6,945,954. Stormwater expenses are increased by $4,750. Community services expenses are increased by $407,894. Interlocal expenses are decreased by $121,115. Environmental services fund. Stormwater expenses are increased by $63,208. Transfers from other funds are increased by $63,208. Cemetery fund. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $1,802.75. Transfers from other funds are increased by $1,802.75. Cemetery expenses are increased by $3,605.50. Medical self-insured fund. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $471,600. Other revenues are increased by $3,260,510. Medical plan expenses are increased by $3,591,241. Capital projects fund. Prior year revenues are $40,401. Loan proceeds are decreased by $1,722,815. Capital expenses are decreased by $1,763,216. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time October 10th, 2022. Publicly read for the second time October 24th, 2022.
Thank you. Motion's been made for approval.
Second.
And second, Todd, thank you. Any questions for Stacy? Stacy, I almost feel like I need to make one up.
Any comments, Stacy?
I don't think so, but I'll look and see if I can find some. No. Like I said, this one's fairly routine. Just catching up on all the business we've had since July 1. And of course, we'll have our mid-year amendment coming in February. That's the one where we kind of see if anybody has any new requests, additional things that have come up that we consider at that time, see how our revenues are doing, and if we can afford to add anything that we weren't able to include in the budget. So this one's pretty routine, pretty just catching up on grants and items you've previously approved.
Sounds good. Thank you, ma'am. Sarah, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mrs. Lesby Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Lesby?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mrs. Hammer?
Yes.
Thank you all. Let's see, under fire, we have a resolution accepting Kentucky Office of Homeland Security grant funds. Come on up, man. Oh, there's two of you back there.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Jay, I didn't know you were hiding behind the partition.
How y'all doing? We were awarded a grant to replace some hazmat suits. We had some age on the ones that we had, and then this is going to be a standalone for us too. We're looking at getting out of Northern Kentucky hazmat team and going into BERT, Bluegrass Emergency Response Team. So this will allow us to start getting some of our own materials as opposed to utilizing what they had. So.
Good. Good. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Doesn't matter. Second.
Confused me for a second. Any questions about this? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. And that'll straighten out our recent situation where you used some hazmat suits. Did all that get resolved down?
Yeah, that the large incident that we had, we are working on getting recouped for that as well. So these will actually be, extra, even on top of what we had. So we're going to be able to replace everything that we have.
We have, that incident we had was pretty expensive with use of hazmat suits. Working on that. Good. We'll see item B, approving a bid for Fire Station 3 roof replacement.
Yes, sir. As far as we can tell, and looking back at the records, I believe this is the original roof, and this is over the bay. It's the rubber membrane roof. It's the one that has the rock on it, and that you see. We're actually, through this, and Eddie was a huge help with this, and Shay, as far as putting the specs out. I feel really good about this one. This is going to replace the roof and add some extra insulation. That's going to help us just with utilities and being able to keep the bay. If it's cool in the bay, it's cool in the station, and vice versa. So we're going to be able to do that, and I feel like that we have a good bid with this.
Motion made.
Thank you.
Second.
And seconded. No questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item C gets a little more expensive. And just a word or two for the council. You'll see in the materials in your packet that we had a prepayment option. but we are not recommending that we take the prepayment option. We don't think the reward is great enough for what they want us to do. They want 100% prepayment. We're used to 50% prepayment. And they want all of it now with delivery in 3 years.
Whoa.
Oh, that would be loud.
I mean, that's enough. They might go bankrupt in that amount of time. But, so we have declined their offer on that prepayment. It's just not good enough for the risk that exposed taxpayer money to. The bids did come in just slightly over what we had budgeted. We had budgeted $1.4 million, and we're about $150,000 short from what these two bids are. What Stacy and I have talked about, if council's comfortable with it, our second year's ARPA check, when it came in, was a little more than we expected it to be. Rather than being exactly equal to last year's, it was a little bit higher. And it's a little bit higher by about $150,000.
Yeah.
And we had not budgeted, we had not committed it, and it is available to commit to this fire engine transaction, and we can complete that tonight without. This would require an amendment to the mid-year budget to make this happen, but it's something you can decide to do tonight.
Is the delivery date is 3 years?
That was pretty common across the board. We're looking at 2.5 to 3 years. Just with the amount of orders that these companies are receiving, prices are going up, supply chain issues. We heard it once before tonight already, but and then we're looking at a 7% increase across the industry November 1st. So that was kind of why we were trying to get this through in tonight, but prices are going up and it's taking longer to get them. And it's not even the build time, it's because we're behind as far as just the line of people ahead of us. It's about 8 months build time, so.
I do think the department the decision feels like it's coming quickly, but the department's worked on this for a long time.
Yeah.
And they've had responsible folks to it. Finance committee's worked on it, fire committee's worked on it, and I think we're prepared to take this step. And that's your recommendation, Chiefs?
Yes, sir, and Chief Gifford, and yes, thank you.
Thank you. Second. If there are no questions for our chiefs, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Thank you, that was easy. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, it was all the work beforehand.
Yes, sir, thank you all.
Thank you. Item 12 on our agenda under Human Resources is first reading of the amendment to the personnel ordinance. Sponsors Mr. Sun and Mr. Lusby.
An ordinance amending section 2-101 of the Code of Ordinances to reduce the number of police officers by 1, increase the number of lieutenants by 1, and increase the number of police officers by 2. Summary. 1. Amend section 2-11C of the Code of Ordinances to reduce the number of police officers by 1, increase the number of lieutenants by 1, and increase the number of police officers by 2. 2. Provides they repeal the inconsistent ordinances, severability provisions, and effective date upon passage or publication. Full text. This ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 43244 at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read first time, October 24th, 2022.
Thank you. That'll constitute first reading. I think it's a really smart ordinance to create this lieutenant position, take an officer and create a lieutenant position, to give supervisory responsibility over all the various services within the police department that the chief is providing. We've gotten to where we're doing so much in these auxiliary services, and the public likes these services, that we want to make them more institutionalized and give them greater supervision. It creates that for the chief. It's worded funny. I don't want to confuse you all. It says we eliminate a police officer and we add a police lieutenant. That's the act of taking a police officer and making them the lieutenant. Then we're still adding the 2 officers as indicated from our grants that the department's working on. That's why the red funding, we take one away, we add a lieutenant, and then we add two.
Yeah, Megan and I kind of went back and forth on that, but, you know, we wanted to show that the officer was being removed because the lieutenant was added, not that we were adding that. So it's a net increase of one officer and one lieutenant. So yeah, it is kind of funny, but we wanted to show those two JAG officers being added.
Okay, so we'll have second reading on that at our next one. Let's see, Chief, under Police Department, we have a resolution accepting Law Enforcement Protection Program grant funding. That, Chief, I think that must be the biggest box of rifles, guns, and ammunition.
Yeah.
That must be a semi-load.
To the tune of about $187,000. So our firearms were toward the end of their life expectancy. Our rifles are borrowed from the military, so we can send them back. They're Vietnam era, and our tasers are well past their life expectancy. So, and I got to tell you, this came from a call from a guy I used to work with at Ronnie Baston, Chief Baston from Lexington. Got the job with Homeland Security and gave us the heads up on it. So kudos to him for thinking about us.
It's a bunch of money, Chief. It's a lot of equipment. We do. Thank you. And a second. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Down to item 14 on the agenda for council comments, but before we go to council comments, let me just say that this is our last election, this is our last council meeting before we go to the general election. And I just want to say that I thoroughly enjoyed working with this council and think that your performance, every council member that wishes to be reelected, I think has earned the right to be reelected. So best wishes to each of you on election day. And Mark, we'll start with you.
Two items.
Yes, sir.
Listening,
Finally getting there.
it's looking really nice. Looking really nice. Second item is Washington Street between Broadway and Water Street, where ultimately, I guess, the new Justice Building will be located. Several, looks like abandoned homes, I guess, that are not completely locked up. And I had a phone call Saturday afternoon, and I don't know what involved, but there were several people coming out of one of the houses. So I had to call them, I said I would ask about it tonight.
Okay.
So I think several of the houses are, anybody can go in.
We'll have to take a look. Anything else, Mark?
No, sir.
Yeah.
Just one thing, I wanted to remind everybody that the Elizabeth Village Night Market is Friday night, so I'm sure they appreciate everybody showing up.
Welcome on.
Thank you.
Just a couple of things. Robert Broom and his guys have, or his folks, I should say, have started picking up leaves, and right now they are able to stay ahead of it. And once they finish for the day, they move on to the next day, the next day's route. So, but it may come to a point where it gets so busy that they will have to stop before they finish, pick up the next day. So it may get delayed on their pickup, but they will get to them. Also, there's he has 800 tons of salt that I hope we don't get to use. But he is also getting salt trucks ready to go in case we do. And the only other thing I've got is a resident down on North Water Street indicated there was a house down there that was still having a lot of trash and junk dropped off at. So down on West Washington Street. So it's the empty houses too. So just I guess up on that one. So.
People are just dumping stuff.
All right.
That's it.
Good to see you back, Mayor, and I don't have anything.
Thank you. David?
Glad you're back, Mayor, doing much better. For sure. That was Chief, you talked about, the Baston, the former chief in Lexington. Well, fortunately, we have you, and the relationship that we have with you led to this. So, I mean, I know you're giving him kudos, but we give you kudos as well. So thanks for that. Almost $200,000 worth of new guns. That's awesome. And then Todd, quick confirmation or question. People don't need to call right now for the leaf pickup. Are the routes in place, or do they need?
The routes are in place, they have been posted online,
Okay.
Yep.
shared all over. So,
Good times.
Well, I tell you what, they've stopped the leaf vacuuming in Lexington. Folks are hostile over it. Be glad we didn't do that. Greg?
Welcome back, Mayor. Glad to see you're doing well. And one other thing, I just want to give a shout out to Robert Bruin and his crew at Public Works. They replaced a bunch of stop signs in the Kingwood subdivision and Payne's Landing that had become faded, and they also added the reflector strips on them, so they look really nice.
It really improves the look of the sign.
It does.
Now
It
that
does.
you get used to that, that strip going up.
Right. That's it.
Thanks. Well,
Yeah, welcome back, Mayor. We're glad to see you here and thankful for your leadership. I want to have a shout out for the fire department. I've had 2 calls recently, and I think these are things that maybe the general public isn't aware of, but they're so thankful that, especially in this time of fire prevention, if you call and you have trouble with your battery change out of your alarms, they will come and they will bring ladders and get up to the highest echelons of your home, and they will, this person said, in the most professional, kindest way, they'll put up cloths so that the ladders don't scuff the walls, and it's just a class act, and it's a service that our fire department does, and it's appreciated by the public and by us. Had a couple other calls and concerns about the intersection that's the hospital and the bypass. There are just a lot of traffic fatalities and accidents there, and I don't know that we can necessarily do anything to remedy that, but if there is something that can be done, maybe we should look into it.
Well, the one thing we can do on that is, that's controlled by the state.
Right,
State
that's
highway
what I'm
department
saying.
is like- We can request that they take a look at the timing of the lights and.
Of
some
the lights and things.
Traffic patterns that they're trying to do, and,
Yeah,
we can do that through our traffic committee.
okay, thank you.
if there's a button we can push, it seems like we should push it. There was that a fatality just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's just tragic things. Yeah.
We have other intersections where there are more accidents, but I don't know of any that are more deadly.
Right. Yeah.
And that's, we have some that are dark, but that's just volume, I think.
Mhm.
Anything else, Will?
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else to come before the council, then we will stand.